All right, away we go. Niners back in the news. We got a lot to talk about. Breaking reports, Jeremy Fowler, Dan Graziano, a lot to get to. Let's go. All right, off and running. Wednesday, already did my KMBR segment on my way to Santa Clara for practice. It's on New York Giants week. Matt Barrows is joining me on the crew on the Niners Nightly Thursday. Just got back to me. Todd Husak's going to join us this week. We're going to catch up with a bunch of New York Giants people as well and check in on the G-Men. Big game for the Niners. Big game for the Giants as well. They're trying to bounce back and get their season rolling, and the Niners are trying to get back in the winning way. But that's not what we're here to talk about. Welcome to the Krug Show, brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. All right, guys, the story of the day, and this is why sometimes I feel like I got to get up earlier. You got to get up earlier. I got to be like Coach Yak on the East Coast. Because the national writers do get information that we don't get here locally. Just as simple as that. And I don't know if they're getting it from Lynch, and I don't know if they're getting it from Shanahan, or if they're just getting it from sources all around the league. But they often have Niner news that we don't have here. So a lot of times we're chasing this story from behind. I say all that preamble to tell you that Dan Graziano and Jeremy Fowler both had some interesting reports out. And there are 3 today. So let's get into it right away. The first one surrounds Jauan Jennings. And it has been a weird year for Jauan Jennings. He came into the year wanting a new deal, didn't get one, got a little bit more money this year, and basically said, hey, we'll see about next year. And then now he's kind of played poorly, and he got into it with Shanahan, and he's not the same player as he was, at least production-wise, this year as opposed to last year. And I don't think the Niners are going to sign him. And if they do, they're not giving him the big bag that he seeks. And it seems like, from watching from afar, they're trying to force the ball to him. It seems like he used to be the guy that showed up for the W, and now it appears that he's showing up for the contract. And I don't fault him, because you got to make your money at some point in this game. And I just think that this guy's a warrior. But I also get this vibe that in the past, where it just felt like JJ and the team and everybody was in lockstep. Now it just doesn't feel that way. He feels like he's unhappy, like he's trying to prove something. Like there's the team's agenda, and then there's his agenda, and they're not one and the same. Anyway, Jeremy Fowler reported this morning that he believes the 49ers could trade Jauan Jennings before the November 4th trade deadline. So if this report is true, Jauan Jennings is entering his final week with the 49ers. And this is a guy that they drafted out of Tennessee and have brought him along, and he's become a Super Bowl hero and an underrated key cog, and it looks like he may be at the end with the Niners. Now, the Niners aren't saying that, but this is the report. Once again, Jeremy Fowler, ESPN, solid reporter. He says, much is made of Jacoby Myers' trade prospects out of Las Vegas, but let's not forget about Jauan Jennings, who also asked for a trade in the offseason over a lack of a new deal. Despite nearly 1,000 yards in 2024, Jennings is off to a slower start this season, ranking 5th on the 49ers in receiving with 212 total yards. Both sides could use a fresh start. Wow. Now, that last line, okay. So, first of all, just looking at the trade market, and I'm what am I looking at? I'm just looking at different reports, the same reports you guys are looking at, right? But looking at all these different reports, it's pretty clear that there's multiple teams, including the Pittsburgh Steelers and others, who are hot on the trail of an additional wide receiver. It just is it's a position that teams, sometimes try to add at the trade deadline. And the New York Giants are one of those teams. They lost Malik Neighbors. Now the Giants aren't going anywhere as a playoff team this year, so it doesn't make sense for them to trade for Jauan Jennings. Probably not. But I think the first part of this report kind of indicates that there's a market for wide receivers. There's probably a bunch of teams that want Jacoby Myers. There were probably a bunch of teams that wanted Brian Thomas Jr. if the Jags would move him. They said they're not going to. And there may be some teams after Jauan Jennings. I'll say this. If you're a GM and you care about winning the Super Bowl, you should be all about this guy. Every GM in the world noticed what Jauan Jennings did on Super Bowl Sunday and filed that away as, this guy, the moment's not too big for this guy. If we want to win a Super Bowl, we want to win playoff games, maybe we ought to go get a Jauan Jennings because he will play big in big moments. He's a money player who, when you put the money on the table, he shows up big. So I do think there's probably a market for Jauan Jennings. But the most interesting part of this report from Fowler is the last line. Both sides could use a fresh start. I don't think Jeremy Fowler is saying that because he's watched the Niners, knows JJ's, relationships, and has decided on his own that, I kind of think the Niners could use a fresh start. I kind of think JJ could use a fresh start. That's the kind of thing that's sourced. Both sides could use a fresh start. That sounds like the 49ers, saying to Fowler, hey, man, we love JJ. He could just use a fresh start. In other words, we're not paying him. We're not paying him. So, why take this any further? Now you got Pearsall you want to throw the ball to. You got Bourne you want to throw the ball to. I mean, should you really be throwing the ball to Jauan Jennings over Kendrick Bourne at this point? Bourne looks like he's got more left in the tank. Bourne looks like he's got fresher legs. Bourne looks like he's got a better rapport with your starting quarterback right now, Mac Jones. Obviously, you're going to want to play Ricky Pearsall. You need to play Jordan Watkins. So maybe they're looking around going, what the heck? Why, we're going to have JJ and he's going to be super pissy if he doesn't get the ball, and it's going to create this bad atmosphere and vibe. You could kind of tell there's a vibe of like the same vibe of what happened last year when it was like Debo was talking all this mess, and it's like, oh, now we need to get the ball to Debo. And then they start forcing the ball to Debo. And the vibe changed. The vibe changed when they started forcing the ball to Debo. And I kind of feel like in this last game that the vibe changed. Back-to-back 100-yard days for Kendrick Bourne, and all of a sudden you're forcing the ball to Jauan Jennings, and he's not making catches. And, you're asking him to block defensive ends. He's on the wrong side of the freaking defensive end. He's asked to block Danielle Hunter. He's not even standing between Danielle Hunter and Mac Jones. He's standing on the outside of Danielle Hunter. What are you doing? You're going to block him into Mac Jones? I mean, it's the basics of blocking. Stay between your man and the quarterback. Your man was between you and the quarterback, and you were blocking him closer to the quarterback. So something's amiss for sure. And to hear Jeremy Fowler say both sides could use a fresh start, either JJ's agent is saying, hey, he could use a fresh start. I don't think that's something that you get from other teams. I don't think the Texans or the Rams or the Packers representatives who whisper things to Jeremy Fowler are saying to Jeremy Fowler, hey, you know what? Jauan Jennings out there in San Francisco could use a fresh start. That's coming from his agent or Lynch. I don't think there's anybody else. So both sides could use a fresh start. That sounds like something you say when you're on the verge of trading a player, and you're trying to come up with reasoning. Yeah, you know what? We love him. He's a warrior. He's, if we could clone him, we would. But you know what, Jeremy? At the end of the day, I think he probably could just use a fresh start. That's an all-encompassing way of saying we're not going to pay him. We're not going to pay him what he wants, and so it might be just easier to move him. And especially if you're in this, you're going to trade other draft capital. Now let's get to the other reports, because that's the Fowler report, the first report. All right, let's get to the second report. This is also a Jeremy Fowler report. The 49ers are among the interested teams in Bengals defensive end Trey Hendrickson, per Jeremy Fowler. Where have you heard that before? I've heard that once or twice already recently. Fowler noted, quote, up to this point, the Bengals have rebuffed trade inquiries, and sources have maintained that Cincinnati has no plans to trade Hendrickson right now. Right now. So that's interesting. Okay. That is interesting. One, the Niners are still very much on the trail of Trey Hendrickson. It's that also, if you believe that, then you got to believe that the 49ers very much are not in any kind of sell mode, that they're in buy mode, and they should be. They're 5-3. Also, when you hear this, it makes you think, well, 49ers may be willing to move for the right piece. They may be willing to move some day 2 draft capital, including maybe a second or third round pick. So I'll say this: when you talk to, when you listen to John Lynch talk about it, and if you've been following the Niners and their trade discussions, they either want to do what they did yesterday with Keion White, which is no-brainer trades. Oh yeah, move backwards from the 6th round to the 7th round for Keion White. Yeah, absolutely, we'll do it. The trades that are basically almost just giveaways, that are nominal trades. Okay, so they're totally interested in those. Other than that, I think the 49ers really only want to get true difference makers, guys that are going to they're going to, like John Feliciano was on the radio a couple weeks ago, and John said, hey, look, when you go and add a great player, it does a lot for the morale in the room. I mean, he was probably in there when they added Christian McCaffrey. I'm sure there were people in there, when they added Trent Williams. I mean, it's like when a great player walks in the door, instantly there's good vibes. There's good vibes because it's like, hey, we've added to our roster, and we've added a great player. And great players have presences. They don't just walk into a room. They have a presence. When the Niners added Christian McCaffrey, he added a presence to their room. So I don't think they want to just do anything. I think they want to make it. I think they're looking for difference makers, especially if they're going to move a day 2 pick. And who are the difference makers out there? I think there are 2 of them, Trey Hendrickson and Quinnen Williams. And for those guys, I would absolutely trade my 2nd round pick. Your 2nd round picks have been Dante Pettis and Drake Jackson, for crying out loud. You can move your 2nd round pick. And the thing about it is Lynch traded for Chase Young, and Chase Young dogged it in the NFC Championship game. And it embarrassed the 49ers and embarrassed Lynch to some degree. And I think Lynch wears those battle scars now. I think he only wants to trade for guys that are great players who also have phenomenal motors that play incredibly hard, because the Niners play incredibly hard. And if you don't play to their standard, to their speed, you're going to stand out like a sore thumb in a bad way. And that's what they saw with Chase Young. He dogged it in the NFC Championship game. It's not acceptable. And they can't have that happen again. So that's really the key. All right. Let's take a time out from the content for a word from our sponsor, Chubbies. A little break from the content to tell you about something I've been rocking lately. That's right, Chubbies. You like it? You guys like the Chubbies? The leaves are turning. The air's crisp. Fall is here. Weekends finally feel like football season. And just because it's cooling off doesn't mean your style has to. Chubbies keeps the fun rolling right into fall with soft, stretchy, fall-ready staples built for maximum comfort and minimal effort. Their new fall collection is awesome. I've been wearing the Everywhere Jogger, and it's perfect for a quick nap, running errands, or those last-minute grocery store runs before kickoff. And since it's football season, you got to check out the official NFL gear by Chubbies collection that I'm wearing right now. Bold polos, fan-ready mesh shorts, even swim trunks repping your favorite team. Perfect for tailgates, watch parties, or couch-side touchdown dances. For a limited time, our friends at Chubbies are giving our listeners 20% off with the promo code Larry at Chubbies Sports or ChubbiesShorts.com/Larry. That's 20% off your order with code Larry at ChubbiesShorts.com/Larry. Once again, ChubbiesShorts.com/Larry. Chubbies.com/Larry. Support the show and field your best fit this fall with Chubbies. All right. Thanks to Chubbies for being a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. All right. Let's get to the third report this morning because this one's also very, very interesting. Dan Graziano, also of ESPN, very credible guy. He says he's confident that the 49ers are not done making trades despite trading for Keion White of the Patriots just yesterday. And here's the quote. I know they've been calling around about pass rush help. They got some Tuesday with White, and they've been known to be active and creative at the deadline in past years. I'm feeling confident they'll do something beyond what they've already done. So Graziano thinks a move is coming. I told you what I thought. I just don't really believe the Niners. I don't think they want to take chances with guys they don't know that are just like some middle of the road pass rusher. I don't think they want to take any chances. I mean, they'll make that middle of the road pass rusher deal and add anybody if the price is low. But I don't think they want to trade anything of significance at all for anybody that's either not a great player that's going to make a big impact, or that they know really well and they know his work ethic, his motor, and how he'll fit in. They don't want to take any chances with guys that they don't want Chase Young 2.0. They don't. I actually saw somebody who said maybe they'll go after Chase Young again. What? Seriously? I mean, that was said by somebody who doesn't know what the hell they're talking about. I mean, that ain't going to happen. I'd almost guarantee that that's not going to happen. But I do think the 49ers are in the market for, more defensive ends. Miami's got Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips. The Jets have Michael Clemens, Will McDonald IV, Jermaine Johnson. The Saints have Carl Granderson. The Giants came out earlier this week and said they're not moving Kayvon Thibodeau. The Bengals have come out repeatedly and said they're not moving Trey Hendrickson. Then there was a report this week that Arden Key and Draymond Jones are available, and Tennessee looks like a team that's willing to do some stuff. If the Niners are still looking for depth, Arden Key and Draymond Jones from Tennessee might not be a bad combo. I don't think you're going to have to pay a lot of draft capital for those guys, and that would give you two more versatile rushers. Draymond Jones has been used as an outside linebacker. He's kind of a stand-up rusher, but he can also play defensive end in a 4-3 if need be. Arden Key can play a 4-3 defensive end. He can play a tackle spot on pass rushing downs. He gives you tremendous versatility. So, I could see them going after some guys like that, but if they don't know firsthand their motor and how hard they work and how hard they play, they're not going to give significant draft capital. But I do think that if a guy like Trey Hendrickson, he fits their system perfectly. He plays with his hair on fire. You could argue his motor is legend. I mean, he's got a legendary motor. He plays ridiculously hard. If he's out there, I think they want him. And if Quinnen Williams is out there, I think they want him too. Robert Saleh had Quinnen Williams. The Niners don't have a Quinnen Williams. And yet they have replacement tackles. I mean, they could trade one of their existing tackles and a pick or two for Quinnen Williams. He's an expensive player. Joey Nichols is like, he just got paid a couple years ago. He's an expensive player. They have a ton of money on the cap. They can take an expensive player and they can fold him in. So, I understand what you're saying. There's always going to be reasons to be like, I don't know. It's not a great fit, this and that. Or if you're looking for a difference maker, how many true difference makers are out there? I mean, guys that are truly difference makers. I would say Hendrickson is one. Quinnen Williams might be another. I was all hot and bothered about the idea of Brian Thomas Jr. The Jaguars came out and said, hey, we're not moving Brian Thomas Jr. So Liam Cohn said he's not available. But I'd be interested in him too. Why? Because he's a difference maker. The Niners opened the practice window for Ben Barch. So I think they look at Barch as their answer on the offensive line. So any idea about trading for a veteran offensive lineman, I think that's probably not in the cards. Chris Mc49er says, how about Jeffrey Simmons? He's another guy, difference maker. Trey Hendrickson, difference maker. Quinnen Williams, difference maker. Jeffrey Simmons, difference maker. I mean, this is what you wanted Hargrave to be. This is what you had in DeForest Buckner. If you still believe in having that dominant D line, then yeah, Simmons. But according to the reports out of Tennessee, they're willing to trade everybody but Simmons and Cam Ward. So it doesn't sound like Simmons is available. All right, let's hit a couple supers here. We got James Foster in here. He says Quinnen Williams will want a new contract, though. Give it to him. Pay him. I mean, the guy's awesome. He's a tremendous player. Robert Saleh knows all about him, and he loves him. So, I mean, Quinnen Williams, I mean, especially with Huff being older and Bosa being hurt again, you may need somebody on that defensive front, you may need a better player than just complementary players. You may need a bus driver, not just a bus rider. And Quinnen Williams is a kind of player that can drive your bus. So he's an incredible pass rusher inside. He's always been that. He's good against the run. He's a load. He's an absolute load. He is what you wanted Hargrave to be. He is what DeForest Buckner is. He's a top 4 or 5 defensive tackle. Same with Jeffrey Simmons. They may look at their line and say, look, we've got a lot of young DBs. Stout's young. Brown's young. Mustafa's young. Siegel's young. Are we going to get rid of all of our young DBs? No. They want to go with those young DBs. Well, what is going to make a young DB better? Pass rush. So I think the 49ers are really looking up front for a difference maker, somebody that has to be doubled, somebody that consistently commands doubles, and that's Quinnen Williams. He's been doubled his whole career. He's doubled at Bama. He's been doubled with the Jets. And if the Jets, the other thing is when you trade for guys, you're trading for them at week 9. So the season doesn't go on forever. You can't have guys that are going to take 3-4 weeks to get ready. You need guys that your coaches are familiar with. They know exactly how they want to use them, exactly where they want to put them. You got to have players that are going to come in and be able to quickly learn your system and adapt and be ready. And that's where the Jets, I think, players make sense because Robert Saleh knows them. They know him. They know the system. And those guys can hit the ground running on a team. Week 10, all of a sudden you adding a defensive player or two. You want that player to be able to really hit the ground running. We got this one from John Yam, who throws in $20 and just says 10. 10. 10. What am I? John, I'm going to need more. I'm going to need more than that. Is that who's number 10? Is that Mac Jones? He's talking about Mac? Is it $20 for Mac Jones because he's number 10? John, I need some assistance. I want to give you more for your $20 than just, I think he's talking about Mac Jones. You don't have to give me another super chat, but if you could, maybe you put a John Yam explanation chat in there, a little follow-up chat. That would be great. Rampage says the Jets seem like the most likely trade partner. Yeah, they do. They really do. Because they're a team that has defensive pieces that, I mean, Michael Clemens, nobody talks about Michael Clemens. Michael Clemens would really help the 49ers. Big 270-pound, 6'4" defensive end who can set the edge on first and second down and provide a little bit of heat on third down. He plays super hard. And, nobody talks at all about Michael Clemens, but he's there. You have Jermaine Johnson, former first-round pick. He's good against the run and the pass. You have Will McDonald, the fourth, who's kind of like a younger, slightly more crazy athletic version of Bryce Huff. He's just that edge-burning monster. And maybe that's what they need. Now they've got Keon White. Now they've got Cleve Farrell, who's also can play inside or outside. He's good against the run. Maybe they just need that guy who can burn the edge. And Will McDonald, the fourth, could do exactly that. He is just electric off the edge. So that's kind of where the Niners are at. 3 very interesting reports. The first one, Jauan Jennings could be traded. The second one, the Niners are still very much after Trey Hendrickson. And the third one is that they're likely to make another move. So these are very interesting times for sure for the 49ers. I'm on my way to practice. We'll go down there. We'll talk to Shanahan today. We'll go into the locker room. I'll say this too. The locker room vibe around this team is still fantastic. They believe that they can get it done. This is a team that's got a lot of great players in the room. It's not like they're sitting there going, "Oh, we're screwed. We have no Bosa. Ah, we're screwed. We have no Fred." There's a lot of talent in the room. There's a lot of belief in that room. D's nuts. Larry's talking out of his butthole. Thank you, D's nuts. This is a comment from a guy who goes by D's nuts. Uncle Rico. Larry, make sure Cohn head isn't recording players. Oh, come on. Grant doesn't record anybody doing anything. That was a bogus story. Juice never should have said that. And I feel bad for Grant on that one. Big game, Benny. Trey Hendrickson has been getting hurt all year. Don't trade for that. Yeah, there's that factor as well. That's a factor. Mill. What's up, Mill? He says, honestly, Larry could do a better job drafting for the 49ers. You knew I was going to put that one up. You just knew it. You put that in there. We got this guy. Let's get it. Says no Grant slander. Yeah, let's not slander Grant. Hey, man, let me just, before you guys get all hot and bothered anti-Grant, let me just tell you about who Grant really is. When I was, when my radio career, when I got dumped by KMBR and I was sitting there going, I just lost $250,000 a year. And I'm sitting there going, what am I going to do? I've got 2 kids in college. I've got a daughter I'd like to, pay for her wedding. I just got dumped from a channel that I think I'm still pretty good at this. I knew it was money related and budget related, and I knew there were more guys coming, but it was no consolation. And I still had to go figure out, am I going to sell my home in Northern California? Am I going to go move somewhere? And I was kind of an emotional wreck, and I wasn't sure what I was doing or where I was going. And, I ran into Grant, and I talked to him one day, and I told him, I said, man, this is where I'm at. I got a daughter. I got 3 sons. I got bills. I got a wife who's wonderful, but doesn't have a huge, $300,000 a year job. And I'm the provider for my family. And what do I do? Do I sell my house and move markets and this and that? And he said, hey, look, let's go to lunch. Let's talk. I'll show you what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, what I'm doing. And I think you could do great at this. And he took the time, man. He took the time when I had a bunch of people just not returning my calls and nobody was really helping me out or in my corner at all. Grant took the time, went to lunch with me, invited me into a space that he was single-handedly dominating at the time and said, Krug, I know you can do it here. I'll show you how. I'll help you do it. And don't worry. And that was an unbelievable moment in my life. This is 2022. And then from there, I had the conviction to start this YouTube channel and to put everything I had into it. And here we are. Jimmy Page is like, stop, Larry. No one cares. I care. And I'm the only one that matters when it comes to this. So I'm sharing this with you because I'm tired of seeing that, Grant's a bad guy. Grant's not a bad guy. Grant's a good guy. And, he helped me out and invited me into a space that, he is dominated. And he's still dominating it. But we've carved out a nice little deal on YouTube. The whole thing's come full circle. I'm now back on KMBR doing Niners Nightly. Thank you, Mike Holler. Thank you, Bruce Gilbert. Thank you, Dave Milner. Thank you, Larry. Larry Bloomhagen. And I'm loving it. I mean, I've never been happier in my media career. I love what I do on KMBR. I love what I do on YouTube. I was just on KMBR this morning with Murph and Marcus. I love popping on the shows. I love doing Niners Nightly. I love being on the pregame and postgame with, talented people like Adam Copeland, Todd Husak, Tracy Sandler, Tim Webb, and others. So, when I see Grant's this, Grant's that, that's who Grant is. If he had no confidence, he would never have invited me to his party. And if he had no charity, he would have helped me when I was down. I'm not his brother. I wasn't his best friend. Yeah. Jimmy Page, Grant is a good guy to you. Okay, fine. All I would say to anybody is this. Do you know the person that you don't like? Do you know the person that you like? Just ask yourself that. When you're walking through life and you're like, I don't like this person. Do you know them? I love this person. Do you know them? Just remember, the people that you know. And the people that you don't know, you don't know. So, just remember that. We see images and we hear images of, we hear snippets, I should say, of people, sound bites, little bit here, a little bit there, an image of what they're doing. And we're like, oh, we know them. No, you don't know them. You're aware of them, but you don't know them. And I'm just saying, that's who Grant really is. Good dude. And his dad's a good dude. And nothing anybody can say is going to change my opinion on that. And that's how I feel about it. And thank you for indulging me for a minute or two to tell you that story. We got this one from Slavic187. Young YouTube content creators got nothing on Kruger's old school radio skills. I was listening to him till 2 a.m. in the morning, talking 49ers and Giants 25 years ago. I don't know. There's a lot of really talented people out there. I wouldn't say that. But I understand, but just ask yourself. I understand the people like, I don't like Grant, but just ask yourself, are you entertained? It's a show, right? It's a show. Don't forget that. And does he put on a good show? Yeah. Is he entertaining? Yeah. Does he have points that you agree with? Yeah. Does he have points that you disagree with? Yeah. All right. We're all going to be just fine. Everybody's going to be just fine. Just fine. But I'm just here to tell you, if you believe in me and my honesty, I think I've built up a pretty good, honest dialogue with my audience. That's the truth. That's why Grant is a made man in my eyes, because he helped me. He didn't need to. He showed great, great charity to me. And, I don't agree with everything he says. He doesn't agree with everything I say. We're both big mouth know-it-alls. So what, man? So what? At the end of the day, he's a good dude. He is a good dude. All right, I'm going to go down to Santa Clara and cover another good dude. I think Kyle Shanahan's a pretty good dude. And I think he's a pretty good coach. So we're going to go down. We're going to talk to Kyle. We're going to go into the locker room. We're going to talk to some of the players. We're going to haul back up here for Niners Nightly tonight at 6 o'clock. Catch it on KMBR. Thanks to all of you. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Thanks to Chubbies. And we should tell you also, thanks to Sleeper. 49er football season is presented by Sleeper, fastest growing fantasy platform in the world. It's a one-stop shop. You get blazing fast news, real-time stats, group chat, season-long leagues, and of course, Sleeper picks for daily fantasy. Use promo code Larry, Larry. Really easy to remember. Sleeper will match your first deposit up to $100. Links in the description. Terms and conditions do apply. All right. Thanks to Sleeper for being a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. Have a great day, guys. We'll see you later. And thanks for supporting the Krug Show on YouTube.